So we are Hackerspace Prague, brmlab. We started. Oh, sorry. So you know Prague. You've been to Prague. Probably it's a very nice city, nice cultural sites, and lots of events, parties. So the original idea to start the Hackerspace in Prague emerged during that day. It was evening when we realized there are two independent groups in Prague that wanted to start a hackerspace, and that's quite funny because we found each other on the hackerspaces.org wiki, and there were some list of ideas from us, me and my friends, and some other people we never knew, and we realized our ideas were not only similar, but they were almost the same. So we were like, come on, let's join us together and start planning this hackerspace. And this is the day when we had this first meeting in a pub. We had some beers, had a lot of fun, and realized, let's do it. It's something we are missing here in Prague. So after a few months drinking beer in pub, we were able to find a place. So it was how much? It was 4 months later. We were able to find a place, and it looked like this, which is like not very cozy or something, but it was something. We were able to build our hackerspace on. So I will show you in contrast how it looks now. So when you enter it, it looks like this. And I will try to turn around. Okay, so this is our front room, which is suitable mostly for some socializing events or software hacking, which happens at this table in the back. And we have some events we will learn about later, which does not involve a lot of hardware, because working with hardware is usually messy, and we try to keep this room as clean as possible, because you never know where you are going to have to party there. So this shot is rather dark, so let's move in the back area. And this is our hardware room, which is a little bit more dirty, but that's because we made some cool projects there. Like we have a wrap here. I will talk about it later. And we have some. I'm not sure where on this picture is it. I think here in the back, it's some robot. I will show you later. And in the back, we have a kitchen, which is full of lots of interesting stuff. And even more further in the back, we have a biolab, which is the most cleanest room, where we do some kind of experiments involved in biology and stuff, where you don't want to contaminate the stuff you are working on. This is our hardware room 2.0, which I showed in the beginning, but some months later we tried to reorganize it. This is Sargon, who was the originator of this idea, and we bought this shelf, and we did a lot of work, and it's much more workspace there. And as you can see, our members are very happy working there. So let me talk to you a few words about events. So the first event we had was even before we had this space, and it was Mitch Altman's workshop. He visited Bratislava, and the next day he was in Prague, and we had this space from some cartography institute or something, where we were able to get a lot of people in. And those who know Mitch Altman, he's a hardware hacker / entrepreneur / happy person, and he's traveling all around the world, and he's evangelizing the open hardware movement, and he's doing a lot of workshops about soldering and stuff. So
he has a Progress Bar t-shirt.
And he wears a Progress Bar t-shirt on this event, because he was the day before he was here. And we attracted a lot of young people. Some of them are even members now, so that was a really cool start for us. That wasn't planned, of course, but it really helped us a lot. Then, of course, we had an opening party. This was quite huge because at the same time there was a Polish conference called Confidence happening in Prague, because the guys from Poland were like, oh, we are always partying in Poland, let's move our conference to Prague. So we had like 60 people attending the opening party, and plus 40 people from this Polish conference. So it was quite huge, and I think it was success. A lot of people enjoyed it, and some people from Progress Bar were also there. Then we had the non-Python Hackfest. So we also do some software stuff. This also happened by coincidence, when Tomeu from the GNOME Foundation wrote us that he found us on the interwebs and he would like to organize the Python Hackfest. This was shortly after GNOME 3 was released, but all the Python bindings were still attached to GNOME 2 version, so they had to do a lot of stuff. And they enjoyed the space, and also the Czech cuisine and beer, of course. Then we had a food hacking workshop. This guy here, František, you might know him. He's originally from Czech, but he spent some time in the US with Mitch Altman and folks at Northbridge. And then he returned back and had held a series of food hacking workshops, also in here, in the Progress Bar, in brmlab, and other Central European cities as well. And he was giving some talks and workshops about how to make kombucha, or how it's kefir in English.
It's kefir.
Kefir, okay. And also we did some other stuff like hummus or some how it's called? It's fermented food. So this was also quite successful, because we managed to attract completely different kind of people that we attracted in the workshops before, that were mostly about hardware or software. It was also cool. Then we had the door open day, which was because the building we are in is quite big. It used to be some factory, and they rent the individual spaces now. So they rent it to us, to some artists, and to some studios. So, but the problem was these people didn't interact a lot. Didn't know which part of the building is rented to whom. So the owners of the building decided to have this door open day where you can wander all around the space and find who exactly is living there. So we had this door open day, and we presented, for example, some experiments with liquid nitrogen and referent. It wasn't rocket science, of course, but it was very pleasant for these people who saw these experiments only on television. So it was a hands-on stuff for them. Then we organized OpenSUSE release party. This was also related to software, but also we held Ubuntu Global Jam, which is quite a coincidence, because yesterday and today there is another edition of Ubuntu Global Jam where Ubuntu contributors gather together and try to hack on some stuff and report bugs and so. Then we had 23andMe food hacking. This lady here is Denisa Kera. She's from also originally from Czech Republic, but she's been living in Singapore for quite a while now. And what she's doing is, if you know the service 23andme.com, I guess, you go to this website, order some kit, they will ship it to you. You take the saliva samples, ship it back to them, and they will send you the DNA screening. And what she does is she is able to use this data from 23andMe to create a special dinner especially for you, because it's possible to see how sensitive you are to sugar taste or to spicy food and so on. So that's what she's doing in this Singapore Institute. But unfortunately, only this guy here, Ruja, he was the only one with this 23andMe screen. So he was the only guy who had a specialized dinner.
Is it a software open source or she just reads it?
I don't think she's using some software.
So she just looks over the
Yeah, maybe she has some templates and she compares or something. I wasn't there at the workshop, unfortunately, but I'm sure Ruja will remember something.
Okay.
So it was also quite nice event. Also, as you can see here, there is also special wine for everyone, also depending on your DNA structure. Then we had the first year at this space. We had also quite party, and this is like one of the few photos that getting published. Then we had a Sugar Lab Hackfest by the same guys that had the normal Python thing, and this is a one laptop per child project, and the idea is to build these ultra cheap laptops. I don't know what's the model right now, but at least some years ago was that you buy this laptop for $200, and they will ship two computers, one to you and one to child in Africa. And the idea is that this screen, for example, has two modes. It can operate in classic Chlorophyl LCD, but also it has the mode when it looks like, you know, the display of the calculator, so it's visible from the direct sun. And also it has some quite nifty stuff like wireless support with meshing. So if you have a couple of these machines, they will find each other and they will create automatically mesh.
How does it work? It's an ad hoc network?
It's ad hoc network and it's based on 802.11s standard, which is only in draft version, but they based it on some recent draft. And also it has some other cool features, like it has ARM processor, so it doesn't need a lot of energy and stuff. And this is the computer we received as a gift, so if you are around you can play with it. Then we held or attended some other events like the House Computer Congress or House Computer Camp. And every first Thursday each month we held lightning talks. We held lightning talks where everybody is able to submit a talk. It should be rather short, around 5 minutes. Then we have Metasploit Unleashed, which is like a crash course to Metasploit. So you get to know this tool, and the guys that have this workshop trying to do all stuff related to Metasploit, but not only using Metasploit. Then we had a Bitcoin seminar, which is quite regular now, but that's where we talk about Bitcoin. For example, Slash, who is the inventor of the idea of pooled mining. He lives in Prague. He's not our member, but he hangs around brmlab a lot. Then we helped with Bitcoin conference. We helped more particularly by having an after party in our space, and for example, here I was performing something very similar what you could see yesterday. And then we had quite a bunch of lock picking workshops, which is also quite interesting because while the topic is obvious, what for me was not obvious, that it attracts all kinds of people. There were some well, I'm not trying to put them in some ways, but there were some old people, young people, like the hippies people, and from all areas. That's something what I didn't expect it. That all these sort of people will be attracted to lock picking. So let me say a few words about projects. This is Arduino. It's a clone of the normal Arduino, but the main difference is this chip. It's called FTDI chip, which translates from the USB to serial communication. It's on a separate port, and the reason is this chip costs as much as all of these chips. So when you buy a normal Arduino, how the price is just the chip, and if you want program it, then you don't want to program it again at all. Like for example, this Arduino which is running there, and you just like put it in the ball, so you lost half of the price. So what's up? It's made from Sargon, and we had like 50 or 60 of these, but just 10 of these. So that's all right. This is the robot I was talking about. It has chassis from some tank model. You put notebook here, and this is a very sophisticated camera system here. There basically you have a webcam and a big spoon, and when this webcam moves from down, it has a 360 vision. So this is basically what robot sees. So you don't have to use more cameras to capture all what's around the robot, just one. And the software which runs on the notebook translates this spherical image to normal projection. And also we had an Android phone attached to the computer, and this phone provides GPS data and accelerometer data and stuff. And the software is also able to download the map from OpenStreetMap. And this is for some competition called the Robotour, and it's held every year in Czech or Slovakia. And the idea is to create an autonomous robot which is able to drive from point A to point B in some very complex environment like park with people, or the last time it was botanical garden. So it's very, for example, this OpenStreetMap data were very useful because you knew where the water was. So this is probably not where you want to go with your robot. And yeah, and also it has to drive with a 5-liter keg of beer on top. So it has to be somehow bigger. Yeah, so this is a Roomba, the robotic cleaner, and the good thing is it has this connector, which is, by the way, our logo. It's the Roomba connector logo, and with this connector you can override the commands for movement of this cleaner robot. So if you have some router board, you can attach it to Roomba and control it via some algorithm or via internet. And I think this should have been evolved into a project called brmlab or something like that. And the idea is you put a red on top of this with 3 buttons, which were meant to be like go left, go right, and go straight, and basically let the red to drive this Roomba in the machine and to get to the cheese. And I think it worked for a little while, but then the red died. But not because of this, so the project is kind of suspended now. But it worked. Unfortunately, we have no evidence. So this is RepRap. I don't know how many of you know what RepRap is. Okay, so mostly all of you. So I will just say very quickly. We have a plastic filament going in. Here it is heated up to around 350 degrees or 250. Yeah, it's 250. And this head operates in 2 directions, and it's putting this heated up plastic on the bottom, and it's creating. I think I have a video. Yeah, so this head is moving. It's doing basically 2D print, and once the layer is finished, the whole mechanism moves half a millimeter above, and it repeats with another layer. So after a few steps, you have you have the whole 3D model printed.
How much faster is the video?
Sorry?
How quick is rychlone to video?
This I don't know how long is the video, but this piece takes around 2 or 3 minutes. But it depends on a lot of parameters. For example, this nozzle has several of these. So if you have a width of 1 millimeter, then it's fast, but it's pretty rough. If you have like half or quarter millimeter, then it's getting really slow. It's using more plastic, but the models look very cool. And why it's called wrap? The wrap is for replication, and that's because all these blue parts are printed on another wrapper. So once you have wrapper, you can print parts for your friends. But the rest, like this metal rods, you have to buy. It's not economic yet to print all of it. So this is our 3D Orso laser. We presented this at CCC last year, and we have 3 lasers here. The red one is from the DVD drive, the blue one is from a Blu-ray drive, not bought in China, and the green one is from the laser pointer. And what we have here is 2 galvanometric stepper motors with mirrors, and you can reflect the direction of the laser and of course the color. And this is a small example how we used it. We also have a software which runs in the browser, so you just write something on the canvas. It's translated into SVG. Then from SVG vector is translated into ILDA vector, which is some standard in laser hackery, and then it's pointed at yeah.
Is there a video? Because there was a video on top.
Yeah, I'm looking at the icon as well, but I don't think there is. Yeah, there is on YouTube. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I said. You draw something on a computer, it's immediately posted as SVG to the web server, and you can see it on the wall. Okay. So that's a biology section. It was presented by some other guy, but hopefully I got everything right, so I can tell you. This is a project called BurnScope. The idea is you buy this very cheap microscope. It's around 70 euros or something. It has quite good parameters. It behaves like a normal webcam, but it has 400 times magnification. But the problem is you can't hold it steadily in your hand, so that's why we invented this mechanism around it, and it's using Arduino and 3 stepper motors. So what we are able is to move the specimen in very small distances. And also the guy wrote the software which does some kind of automatization. So we put 100 crown banknote on it, and the idea is you take a picture of the banknote or the specimen, move it a little, take another, until you have like 200 images, and then you use normal software for panoramas, and you will stitch it together. So you have like the picture of the banknote, but it is 20,000 by 100,000 resolution. This is some experiments with the onions. So we have a forelight and backlight. For some specimens it's better to use backlight, for some specimens forelight. This is some other cool stuff we found in our water. This is the 300 dpi laser print under this magnification. Yeah, and that's all about it. This is a Skiller box project for Czech Academy of Sciences. As you can see, we really like reds. And the purpose of this apparatus is very simple. There are 6 holes in the front, and you put LCD monitor behind the box, and you show some image to the rat. And this image has connection to which of these 6 holes contains food. So that you start with a simple experiments like when the screen is red, then it's this. When the screen is blue, then it's this. But this is something rat can grasp very easily. But you can go even further and to start with something more abstract. Like if it's a triangle, it's this hole. If it's a square, then it's another. And the funny thing is, this also takes not a lot of time to rats to realize. So they are trying to find out where's the line, what kind of image is too abstract for these rats. But even these creatures are really smart.
Maybe try writing it in Czech. The food is in number 3.
Yeah, I think if rats are able to understand this, then we are fine. Because they will learn on Wikipedia what we are doing to them.
There is, I see that there is a servo here, and the thing is in the servo.
Yes.
But how can the rat see through here? Can it look outside?
You mean the rat?
Yes. Does it see the movement of this thing?
No.
No.
It's. I think the experiment happened in completely dark chamber.
Okay.
So the only thing you can see is the.
And when the rat
monitor in
sticks
the
its
back.
nose in the wrong hole, what happens then?
There's no food in there.
But she can smell it.
That's probably why they use the servers, so she can't smell it
Yeah.
on the beginning.
Yeah. I don't know a lot of details about the experiment, but the idea is you show the image and then you set up the correct hole. I don't know what kind of countermeasures are used, so the rat is not cheating. Okay. Yeah, this was also quite a fun experiment. The idea is you have a leaf, you put it into liquid nitrogen, so you break basically all the cells, and then you put it in a, how is it called? It's like this bank. It's like small bank, and we use this very advanced piece of technology. It's an old hard drive, but we were able to do some hacking, so it's not turning at 7,200 RPMs, but around 15,000. And you put this bank on top. There's a lot of duct tape to secure it. Then you press the start button. Wait a couple of minutes. Hope it doesn't break off, but still we are using this plastic crate around it because once it was very bad. And after a couple of minutes, you have all these layers from the cells. So you have like chlorophyll on the top or bottom, and you are able to extract it. And how you are able to check you have really chlorophyll. Yeah, under the UV light, the chlorophyll is behaving like this, so it's illuminating and you can play with it.
What did you do with this?
Sorry?
What did you do with the chlorophyll?
I don't think we did anything. That's a proof of concept that this kind of extraction works, and it's funny to look under the UV light on it. Then we also extracted DNA. Idea is very similar, but instead of just putting it in a bank, you put strawberry in a liquid nitrogen, then you smash it, and this dust you put in some solution with isopropyl alcohol and water, and after a few minutes you are able to see the DNA molecules, and you are able to use some stick to get it out from it. And why strawberries are used? That's because the strawberry has the longest DNA from all the vegetables and fruits. Yeah, and also during this open day we used liquid nitrogen to show that if you have lower temperature, then the resistance of the wire is lower, thus the current is bigger. And it's easy to show if you have a LED which is lit and you throw it into liquid nitrogen, it will be much more brighter. That's because it has more current going through it. Yeah, this is laser microscope. The idea is simple. You have this bank with some specimen, water from Volta, for example, and you use the laser pointer to point to it. And on the wall you have this refraction image of what's happening inside. It's not very readable, but if there's some microorganisms, then this image is moving. So it's not useful for finding what is in there, but at least you see there is something inside. Yeah, we also have guys which are really interested in medical stuff. So they do all workshops like oximetry, sonography, electrocardiograph, and electroencephalograph. And that's why this weird person looks kind of weird, is because he's drunk. What we did is we measured all these values. Then he had like 6 shots of vodka or something. We measured it again. The only problem was we had a lot of volunteers for these experiments. Yeah, that's some other reading from the brain. Yeah. So that's how they were measuring the heartbeat and the oxygen level. Yeah, this is a wormhole. It's inspired by North Pole from Noisebridge Hackerspace, and on this in this blue thing you have 8 motors from the cell phones, these vibrating ones, and Arduino-driven software rotates or activates only the one which is pointed at north. So if you wear this bracelet on your ankle, then you should be able to immediately see or to have the grasp where's north. And after a few months of wearing, or maybe weeks, you don't do it like consciously, but unconsciously. So you know where the north is, but you don't realize you have something buzzing on your ankles.
It's like, where's not there?
Sorry?
So like, where's not there?
Yeah. So the idea is to somehow expand your senses in this quite non-intrusive way. This is LED bar, which are basically 23 nodes of RGB LEDs, and what we have is this small windows to the outside. So we wanted to put it there and to send some messages to people walking around, or to create some infrared sensor, so it will activate only when someone is crossing around. But it's still not finished. We had a lot of problems with the TLC drivers. And I hope it will be finished soon. Yeah, then we have quite people interested in GSM research. So what you basically need is 4 really old Motorola phones. These are getting more and more expensive on eBay because of this. And you flash a special firmware into it, and you can read the data using the FTDI. It's the same that's used for Arduino, but it has 4 serial ports instead of 1. And then if you grab the traffic from air, you are able to read SMSs that are traveling around, or if you have a really strong machine, that you can also crack normal communications. But it's you have to have around 2 terabytes of rainbow tables, and if you are able to store it on SSD, then it's much more faster. So, but in real time, it's possible just to do estimation.
Why 4 phones? A lot of money.
That's because I think you need 2 phones to capture data, And you need two pairs of phones because there is an uplink and downlink. So if you want to hear the whole communication, you have to capture two streams. And why you have to have two phones for one stream? That's something I don't know. But for SMS, it's enough to have just one. The guys from Berlin, how do you call it? It's at SR Labs. They are the pioneers of this research. They had a lot of papers and talks at the Congress. Yeah. This is FreeCard. It's basically a project where we try to document all kind of security tokens, be it RFID cards or magnetic cards or keys. And this is one of the first experiments we did. It's just a small piece of PCB with wire, around 400 circulations. And while that's because our whole building is secured by the magnetic card, and that's what we tried at first. So we have an Arduino, which creates a signal, which is pushed into this coil, and when you put this coil into the door, ta-da! It's yeah. And also, what this the main flaw of this is, if you have a building, it's almost 100% chance that all cards for this building have a sequence in numbers. So if you have your card, you are able to read it, and if you enumerate 100 to the left and 100 to the right, you probably get some master cards to the whole building. Yeah, that's another project, somehow unrelated, but still is a part of FreeCard. It's because it's about documenting hardware tokens, tokens for physical security. And the idea is there is this company, Fab, which makes keys, which are really popular. And there are only 20 types of keys when you look at this relief. And it has 5 pins. And each pin can be in one of 10 positions. So theoretically you have 10,000 positions. But of course you can't have key that has 110, 110, 110. Well, 110, 110, or something like that. So it has like 2 to 2,000 combinations, and we wrote the software which is able, just by giving a combination of this key, to create a 3D model which you can print on an iPad. And you can open key locks with this plastic key. And the very cool property of this key is, if you print it a little bit bigger, like 5 or 10% bigger, you have a much more bigger chance to open the lock, because you can ram it inside and it will fit even more better than the normal.
Stick drží to, keď to točíš? Keď odpor v zámku? To nie, to ten plastik drží.
We tried to open the lock multiple times, and for 10 times it's quite okay. If you are careful enough. It's not for everyday use, but usually it's okay to open it just once.
You can put some metal in the middle, bring it around a little.
Yeah. But I think for most of the uses, 10 is much more.
So basically you can take a picture of someone's keys and then bring it.
There is some project I think in the US, they have some special recognition software. You just take a photo of some keys on the table, and it will compute these values, like what's the profile and what are the pins, and then you just create a model and you can bring it. So this is our kitchen, when we have all of this tasty stuff, and it's driven by this very old computer, 386, and we have a barcode reader, so you just read the barcode on the item, and then you scan your barcode. For example, mine is here, so I just take some from the bar, beep, beep, and it will reduce the credit automatically. And you can also pay with Bitcoins. Alright, so So this is our Kerberos infrastructure. As you can see, it's also really nice. This is an RFID reader, also from China, very cheap one. And if you are standing on the opposite side of the door, you just use RFID card, and it will check the ACL if you are in. And if you are, then it will open the door using the electric lock. So that's how we use. And also it's connected to the computer, so every time when someone opens the door, then it will print an IRC that the door was unlocked. And we used to have also the name of the person who opened the door, but then it's like, it's not a good thing, let's remove it. So now it just says unlocked. Yeah, this is the panel. Where you just flip the switch and it will change the topic on IRC. The active space is open, and you can join. And also here, if you flip the switch, then the camera turns on. Well, you have to turn on the camera, but the streaming turns on. And if you post the URL on the IRC, and you can watch the stream if there is some event like yeah, that's the presentation center, which is used for all these. This is these are physics glasses, and this basically a pair of small LCD screens, which you attach to the computer, and if you have a webcam, you can record some video into the computer, then alter it somehow, either change colors or do something with them, or you can add some augmented reality thing. There was one project in Germany, I think, when it recognized faces, it put a rectangle around the face and said this face is 37-year-old woman, which is sad, or 25-year-old man, which is happy. And it's quite fun to wear these glasses and wander around town and see what this software says. Or you can just use some special effect and to watch the world through this special effect. And also last time I did this proof of concept FPV. It's called first person view. And the idea is you just put some camera, in this case my phone, on the RC car, or RC plane would be better, and you put this feed into these glasses, so it just feels like you are sitting in the yeah. And this is the last slide I had at the MetaLab, where we did this presentation, and they had this really cool thing called laser cutter, which all these flowers are made on, I presume. And we decided to do something very similar, and we did our own laser engraver using some old parts of scanners and printers and DVD laser diode. We hacked up some software, and after a few hours we were able to engrave something in the black plastic. The energy of the laser is not enough to cut through, but at least you can do something like this on plastic. Yeah. It's not very good on light plastic because it reflects laser a lot, but on black plastic it's quite okay. Yeah, and the last time we did this do-it-yourself wireless measurement device, and that's because the guys bought some very cool wireless antennas, and they wanted to check what's the it's called SRE, or so how much radiation comes from this antenna, because it was around 2 watts. What is possible? I think the limit in the EU is around 1,000 milliwatts or 100. Sorry? 100 milliwatts. So these antennas are 20 times much powerful. But still, they wanted to check what's the radiation level, so they hacked this antenna, and using the normal multimeter, they were able to calibrate it to read. And here you can see we also measure the radiation levels of the microwave. It works. And you see some fun things we did, you know, all these memes. And yeah, so Orco is the company who's lending the property to us, so that's what they think we do. And also we have a couple of people that really like dubstep, and if you come to our space at 3 a.m. there is always all these machines and really loud music. So that's and also we some other diagrams, so you know how it's in brmlab. So so as you can see from this very nice mathematical visualization, the chemical layers of light. So I think that's all. Thank you. This is all our contacts, and the soup is soup. If you can any question.